So hello and welcome back. Maria McMahon here with you today. So this is part 2 of my 7-part series, Are You Dating or Married to a Narcissist? So previously in the last video, I talked about love bombing and how narcissists need attention, admiration, validation. So if you're seeing that kind of behavior showing up in this person you're dating or the person you're married to, you need to be on high alert, particularly if you're dating, so that you can avoid getting married to one, okay? So what you want to do is keep looking out for more behaviors that are indicative that this person could be a narcissist. Now, just before I go into the next ones today, I want to urge you to watch this whole video, because at the end, I'm going to share with you 2 solid gold pieces of advice that might just be the best advice you will ever receive. So you don't want to miss that, okay? Okay, so let's have a look at this next trait. So this is the 3rd trait out of 19 that I will cover in this series, and that is that your boundaries are smashed. Now, this shows up very quickly, and it's one of those reasons why having strong boundaries in place and keeping them there is vital for your own protection. And I teach people how to set the boundaries and how to keep those boundaries, because after you've been in a narcissistic relationship, you can be on very shaky ground emotionally for a long time until you can really get yourself back into being able to trust people again. So when I am working with people to help them recover from narcissistic abuse, one of the things I always make sure we bring into play is boundaries and what their understanding is of boundaries and how to set them, okay? So the narcissist date in the beginning, he will have or she will have 0 respect for your boundaries. So they'll text at all hours, they'll show up at your house or your workplace unexpectedly, and they'll get away with all of this if you protest in any way by just, masking it with love bombing, telling you how they just had to see you, they can't stop thinking about you, and how can you be mad at them? They'll even say, oh, how can you be mad at me? I just wanted to see you so desperately. And of course, you'll be so flattered and caught up in the excitement yourself that you let these boundaries get smashed. Because partly you might be afraid that if you stand your ground, they might go off you. They might decide that, maybe you're not the one for them. Or they might go into wounded mode and show you how hurt they are, that you've rejected them. Or they'll even say, and I've known this to happen with people have shared this with me, by the 2nd date, when the red flags were going up for this particular woman that I was talking with. And she realized that this guy was really trying to push her boundaries and she wasn't comfortable with it. So when she said to him, look, I really can't do that, or I don't want to do this, or whatever it was, he actually literally turned around and said to her, well, clearly you don't feel the same way about me. Clearly you don't love me the way I love you. And she'd had 2 dates with this guy. So if you start to get that kind of feedback when you try to keep your boundaries, then you need to be really, really careful, because this isn't normal behavior, but this is very, very normal narcissist behavior. One other thing is that they don't always do it. There are the exceptions, and there are some who will play it cool, but you're always looking for a number of different behaviors. So if any of one doesn't show up, look for the others, but always trust your gut. That's something it's red flag number one in my book, because trusting your own instinct is one of the best things you can do. Okay, so coming back to them smashing your boundaries, they are going to use the love bombing massively, and they're going to use whatever kind of psychological manipulation they can. And usually it'll be nice and good and flattering, and you'll just give in because, hey, it's so nice to have someone feeling that way about you. But what you need to do when that happens is project this behavior into the future and think about what will happen. And let me tell you, be in no doubt whatsoever that the new reality will look like this. And that is, you can't have boundaries. Because what you'll come to realize is that you can't have boundaries because the narcissist doesn't have any respect for your needs. It is always about them. So, for example, if you want to have a quiet night in and catch up on some stuff at home, that won't be acceptable to them because they want you to be with them, giving them their fuel, their attention. If you put your foot down and stand your ground, as I mentioned before, and say, you know, that it's not acceptable or it's not suitable, they might pout, sulk, or charm you again. They might even get angry. And as I've mentioned, accuse you of, if not outright not loving them, at least not caring about them. Or they might even, and again, everything I share in my videos, I have had experience of from people I've worked with, from people in my group, from people on my email lists. These are all real situations. So even in these early days, they will accuse you of seeing someone else, or they'll call you selfish. And yeah, the irony of it, but it happens all the time. So very effectively, they quickly guilt trip you into giving in and letting them have their way. And because you want not only to keep them happy, but you want to keep this lovely, fun thing going, you'll give in. They will have subtly crushed the first boundary, and it will be the first of many to come. And if you're married, your rights as a human being will be slowly eroded away until you just don't know who you are anymore. I know so many people who have suffered so much emotional pain, and they end up feeling lost and hurt and alone. But I do always like to keep things positive, even though I know it's very hard to do if you're in emotional pain. It's important to know that no matter what's happened to you, you can heal, you can get better, and you must believe that. Now, what I'd love if you would share with me in the comments below some examples of some boundaries that you had that got trampled all over the place. You know, if you're willing to share that. And of course, if you're finding my video helpful, then please hit like, and obviously subscribe would be nice. And with that being said, let me get on to the fourth behavior that you want to watch out for. And again, you might be familiar with these if you really know your way around narcissistic abuse and NPD, but I still every day get people coming into my groups or emailing me and saying, I don't understand this. What is narcissistic personality disorder? What can I expect? What does this person do? Here we go again. So the behavior to watch out for here is a sense of entitlement. Now, you mightn't see this on the first date, but you'll soon come to realize that the person thinks they are in some way entitled to better everything. And entitlement, or strong sense of entitlement, is actually one of the 9 traits on the DSM-5 listing for narcissistic personality disorder. Now, basically, narcissists think that they are more special, they are smarter, more superior, more important than the average person, and they'll let you and others know it. Often, it can be right off the bat when you meet them for the first date. And again, I've had examples of this, women I know. First date can be loud and embarrassing. They can be rude and disparaging to waiters or service workers because they consider people like that to be beneath them. They don't think that the waiter or, you know, a person in a shop deserves to be treated with respect. So if you see this kind of behavior, just consider it a massive, massive red flag, a huge warning sign. These people will also want the best seat in restaurants. They don't believe in having to stand in a queue, you know, waiting in line. I think you say that in America. We call it waiting in a queue in the UK. You know, they just don't believe that's for them. These rules for ordinary people just don't apply to them. Now, another thing is that you'll come to learn their talents, their achievements, their skills, and so on might be quite average, but they still have this internal belief that they're superior, despite any real evidence to the contrary. And because of this, they demand more respect, more credit, more money, or whatever, you know, for doing the same work that other people are doing. So if you start to see this type of behavior, start looking out for other behaviors, start connecting the dots. You know, who is this person? Is this person someone who has narcissistic personality disorder? What's interesting about these people, if you can step aside from being, you know, it's difficult to see it when you're in it, but you need to know it, is that they honestly believe that they are superior. And as the relationship goes along, they will expect you to support them in every way possible, even in cases to the point that, you know, they expect you to fund their extravagant dreams. They'll coerce and cajole you into parting with money for superficial or maybe not so superficial things that they simply have to have because, well, they deserve it. And they have no qualms about you paying for it. And this happens, as, again, whether the narcissist is a man or a woman. It's not just women who exploit, or sorry, it's not just men who exploit women. Women exploit men financially, massively. And they will bleed you dry and leave you in financial ruins. And then they'll move on to the next supply and won't give a damn about how much they've ruined you or how much of your personal finances you've given up for them or given up to them. You know, if that's happened to you as well, feel free to comment below. I know people in my group recently commented on a post about financial abuse that I had talked about. And it's shocking. It's shocking how much money it's cost them. And money is just one part of it. One of my clients had to give up $3 million in a divorce settlement. And it was completely his wife's cheating. She walked out on him. There was absolutely no evidence against him whatsoever that he was, you know, to blame in any way. And yet she still walks away with $3 million of his money. It's just outrageous. When you come to the types of narcissist, if you're dealing with a shy or vulnerable narcissist, this sense of entitlement can show up completely differently because they're not overt, they're not brash, they're not obviously looking down on everyone around them. They are much more difficult to spot. But what can happen, it does happen, is that this entitlement shows up with the quiet, the shy, vulnerable type narcissist. It shows up in a seething resentment towards anyone they see as having more than them. So a bigger house, a better car, a better job, better looking, better dressed. They honestly feel that they deserve this more and that the world is being unfair and unjust to them just because it hasn't delivered. And they'll expect you also to put up financially for them. And eventually, you know, you'll run out of money and it'll be your fault. And it won't matter if they sit on their lazy asses all day long and don't do any work. You'll be expected to do the extra work. This is how ludicrous, it sounds ludicrous when I'm saying it, but this is how ludicrous they are. And these people rip people off every single day. I am seeing evidence of it all the time, and it makes my blood boil. So you want to be aware of these tactics and protect yourself, because these people will bleed you dry, okay? And when everything goes wrong and you have had enough of it and you don't want to support them anymore and you want to end it, you will be the devil in disguise. Everything will be your fault, you know? Nothing will ever be their fault because they can't take accountability. So you want to be really, really on the lookout for this kind of behavior, because who wants to end up in this situation? And I've had so many people say, oh my God, if only I'd known this before. It's one of the reasons that drives me to keep making these videos, is if it helps one person to not go into a relationship and get into a relationship like that again, I'm happy. I'm happy if it helps one person, okay? Now, all this crazy behavior, and it is crazy behavior, is going on all the time. And the problem for most people, especially in the beginning, is that they are too caught up in the whole romance of it, or they're too close to really see it. And it can make you feel very uncomfortable if you start to see it. And you might make excuses for this person, particularly if you're in the early days and you're in that love stage and you think you're in love. You're still holding on to the fantasy of who you think this person is. Or more importantly, who you want them to be. You see, you want this love, this new relationship to be real. But if you're seeing these types of behavior, believe me, this isn't going to be the real love you are looking for. You will come to bitterly regret not listening to your instincts and getting out while you could. Now, I hate to say that, but I know from experience of working with loads of people who have struggled and who I've helped with therapy to heal. I have thousands of people in my groups. I have a men's group, a women's group, and a mixed group, Facebook groups, supporting people. So I know what I'm talking about. So please, please, please listen to my advice. And if you are in this type of a relationship now, get out before it's too late. Now, I know that it's not so easy to just get out, whether you're married or if you're in the early stages. You know, it's not easy, but I mentioned at the beginning that I wanted to give you a piece of solid gold advice that could be the most important piece of advice you'll ever get when it comes to protecting yourself from narcissists. In fact, from any relationship until you really get to know that person. And that is, don't give them your whole heart. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, get to know them. Enjoy the thought that this could be the one, but keep your heart protected. Don't go all in with this person. Don't fall for them, hook, line, and sinker. Keep one foot very firmly on the ground and give yourself time to really get to know them. Keep in mind at all times that they may not be who or what they seem to be, and make a decision that this person will have to earn your love and trust, that you're not just going to fall right into their arms and believe everything they say. Now, let me give you one more solid gold piece of advice. Don't share too much personal information with them at the very early stage. You don't have to give them your entire life history, warts and all. Keep the vulnerable stuff to yourself. And I'd say this is especially if you have a painful, traumatic past. Do not share this information with them, because if you do, and this person is a narcissist, you are giving them an incredibly powerful weapon that they will use against you in the future, and you won't even know it. And please trust me on this one, okay? Now, if you're still not convinced, I want you to keep watching the series, because in the next video, I'm going to share 3 more signs with you that will very often show up early in the relationship. And They're three of the most telling of all for any relationship, not just for a narcissistic one or a toxic one. So don't miss the next video. So thank you very much for joining me for this one, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now.